How about emotional health and the journey to it as a whole thing?
Okay.
So we've talked before about, about different modalities of ways to look at ways to tackle emotion. And we talked a little bit yesterday about the length of time it takes. But yeah, I just wondered if it would be of value having a conversation around, what that entire journey might look like. What are people actually signing up for? Are they just signing up just so they can do a session or two and they'd have a fix and they go away, or is it something a lot deeper than that, different for different people?
Yeah, I mean, interesting, right? I mean, what do you think the answer is?
I think that a lot of people, they want to do a piece of work because it's not quite working, and they tweak that a little bit and go off and be unconscious again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my experience with it as well. It's like, I mean, I have a few clients that have stuck with me for a long time. And in fact, I recommend that. And, it's not, no one to overload people. A lot of coaches or counselors or therapists, whoever, they might go, here's, take this package, this program of 20 sessions and pay for this much and pay it up front. I'm like, no, don't, I'm not into that. I'm like, take one session at a time. But this consistency, whether it's once a month or twice a month or once every 3 weeks or something, it needs to be consistent and ongoing.
Yeah.
And I get, I find myself, I can get a bit frustrated with people that come in, they come in, and I can almost spot them these days. They come in with a kind of a nonchalant spoken, oh, I've heard about coaching and I want some coaching for something that I'm not happy about in my life. But the reasons underpinning what they're not happy with are very superficial. Right? So the reasons they want help in this area are because they want it to benefit them superficially.
Yeah.
Right. And those people, I find, they come in and they seem to have an idea from YouTube or Google or whatever it is of the solution that they need as well. So yeah, so they'll come in and they'll be like, this is what I have a problem with. This is what I need to do. I'm like, okay. And in fact, I would probably not work with those people. After having done this for a while, I can sort of see that the commitment's not there.
Yeah.
The intention, the real reason, what they call it, raison d'etre, right? The reason for being, is that isn't there, and that's the real piece of this as well, is for me, is doing this work and getting the coaching, and whether it's coaching, counseling, therapy, whatever it is where's the real congruency? Where's the motivation? What is it for you? Why is the reason that you're here?
Yeah.
And is it important to you? And a lot of people, I can almost assess when that is off beam, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a little bit paradoxical in that, in order to get the most out of this type of work and these sorts of sessions, you have to be at a place to really want to do something. It's very much like drug addicts, alcoholics. It's like no one wants any help unless they hit rock bottom.
Oh, it really, really touches my ex-wife that's now passed away. I took her to so many therapists, counsellors, AA meetings, and one of them, a number of years down the line, said, do you know you're actually part of the problem? You're actually her crutch. Until she's lying day with nothing on the brink of falling apart, then she might say, right now I'm going to fix myself because there's nothing else in my life than fixing myself. And it shocked me, like, what, do I away from this woman? I want to fall in the gutter. And that's the message I was being told, because as far as I'm concerned, you're not going to be successful in making a change in your ego unless you're whatever it takes. That's a question that I know that you've been in life, Brad. Are you do whatever it takes on this weekend to get what you came for? And that's the bottom line. If you're not willing to takes to this work to change your psyche. So psycho.
It's what they call a Freudian slip there, man.
Yeah, and I see that with a number of my clients. We'll do some shadow work. We'll pull apart that part, their psyche a bit. We'll find the messages in this part and that part, and then when it comes to the crunch, they come back. They come back a few weeks later, and they're like, "Yeah, it hasn't really made any difference." And I'm like, "So how much time and attention have you given this? Like, how much priority have you given? Is this like your absolute priority to fight this part of your psyche that's got all of the energy and all of the power at moments?" And the answer has to be no, but it really needs to be yes.
Well, that's it as well. For me, I find that there's a lot of people out there that could be, looking at this sort of thing, because it is still kind of, what is it maybe? I mean, we're just kind of spitballing here, and it could be anything, but it could be that it's a complementary therapy, or it's just something still outside of the mainstream, right? What it's considered to be the mainstream. So if you need your car needs to get fixed, you need the car, right? It's a material possession, it's a status symbol, all of that sort of stuff. You know where to go, bang. You go to a mechanic, you need it fixed. And on top of the car, you got to pay the insurance. And if you don't pay the insurance, you can't have it on the road. All of these sorts of things. And then with that is roadside cover. And then you got to have breakdown cover, and it's all the different stuff. And if you're not feeling well, got to go to a doctor, even though whether or not medicine helps is a completely different conversation altogether. Absolutely. But there's pharmacies to go to and shops to go to. And you want to work on yourself physically, all right, there's things to do. There's, go and speak to a nutritionist, go to a gym, go get a personal trainer. These things are still seen as mainstream, that everybody, well, it's a big thing. Not everybody, but en masse, many people will have a gym, they'll have a mechanic, they'll have a shop that they go to, they'll have a doctor, right? So that's your physical being looked after. That's, all of these sorts of things. This sort of stuff, looking after the emotions, the psyche, the sort of mental well-being, still not as widely accepted perhaps. And I find a lot of people come and they go, well, I just want to get fixed and I want to do it for as long as it takes. And then when I'm feeling better, I'm going to go away. But like you say, it's one of those things that takes consistent work and consistent dedication. Because it can pop up in every way, right? Yeah. It can pop up in just how am I by myself? It can pop up in how do I relate to people at work? How do I relate to my work? Am I taking care of myself? How am I in my intimate relationship? How am I in my relationship with my parents? How am I in my relationship with my siblings? What do I want there? Then children come along. That's a whole nother ballgame altogether.
Totally.
This is, and we're constantly getting challenged.
Fixed it, and then you get ill, you get exhausted, and then all of those stories will come flooding back.
Absolutely. And then it's not just me being impacted anymore by the things that I do, or other adults around me, or other people my age. It's little people that, quite sort of cliche are the future, and they pick up from me. They become what they see from me, that example. So the question then becomes to me is, what do I want? What sort of example do I want to be in the world?
Yeah.
Right. And that is my motivation for going, I need to keep doing this stuff. Right. Because am I aware of the impact that I'm having? It's not just when I feel anxious or I feel stressed out or there's something affecting me that I need to get the work. And that's fair enough when it's happening. That is what we do with. But it's like, how do I make sure that I'm constantly better? That I'm constantly not just getting the therapy or the coaching, but the mentorship. Do you know what I mean? The guidance. And even just the space to actually access a part of myself in a way that I wouldn't anywhere else. That isn't available
and
to me.
So many listeners, you say that, like basically committing to a lifetime of being consciously aware. I'm sure a lot of people would listen to that and think, that sounds like too much. Why would I do that? But there's real value in living consciously. As I said in a previous podcast, I would have, you know, one of my lives, and, you know, I've only been really conscious for the past 10 years or so, as opposed to 10, 20 unconscious lives. But and until you actually get to experience what that feels like, you won't really know.
Yeah, it's true. And we were talking, you know, yesterday about language.
Yeah.
I mean, just as important, right? And the way that language is used in our society, and the throwaway of the stuff on it, like how we throw things away. And yeah, I statements, for example, it's just a huge thing. I mean, I was listening to somebody talk yesterday, and they were just saying, you know, when you have this and this and this happen, and this person treats you in this way and does this and this and this, and then you feel this way. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, please just take ownership of what you're saying. Like, it will fucking help you so much if you just say, I feel this way. This is what's happening to me, and this is my experience.
Yeah.
And then I understand you more as well.
Yeah.
And there's a real habit. And I get it because I was there too. There's a real habit of wanting to skirt issues as well, and skirt things. And, you know, so if maybe I'm asking somebody for something, and they're like, yeah, maybe, or did you do this? Yeah, I mean, I can't really remember. I might have at the time. So are you saying you did or you didn't do it? You know, possibly. But and what is that sort of language helping anyone? I mean, it's just what is it? It's not as much dismissive, but it's just very loose.
I judge the connection to intimacy of the moment, of intimacy of the feeling.
Yeah.
As an example, I was speaking to a client recently, and I said, so, you know, what is that message in there? You know, that inner critic. Tell me what that message says to you. And they sat there and they thought for a bit, and they said, well, you know, it's just all that I'm not good enough stuff. And I was like, that's a glaze right there. I said, you need to dig deeper. You've just literally just covered that over with a blanket there. It's all that stuff. When I won't connect with that. I want you to connect with it. I want you to really embody what that message sounds like, what it feels like to say that out loud, because it's so powerful. So yeah, I judge our communication glazes over the connection to the personal experience.
Yeah, that's right. It's to dismiss it, right? And it's to avoid feeling it and having to acknowledge it and accept it. And it could be for a couple of reasons. It could be, if I'm trying to put myself in those shoes now, and it's been a while, but yeah. It could be, it could be A, it's uncomfortable for me. B, if I really do own that, I have to own a piece of myself that I don't like.
Yeah.
You know? And I have to try and differentiate between the fact that it's actually just a piece of me, not all of me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not saying by doing that I am that person.
No.
You know? But it's like saying I've been sexist. You know, I mean, I could say I'm a racist. I could say I'm all of these things. That doesn't mean that I am all of those things today. It means that at some time in my life, due to ignorance or whatever the case was, or really just not knowing any differently, I have behaved in those ways. Yeah. I've certainly behaved in, sexist ways. I've certainly behaved in racist ways. And they're still prevalent today in my life. But looking back now, I go, well, I don't want to do those things.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me all of who I am. But there's a piece of me that does that. I'm a liar. I've lied. It doesn't mean that I lie now. You know, I lied as a child. You know what I mean? I was trying to hide things. You know, all of that sort of thing. I was scared. I thought I was going to get punished. And occasionally, I might find myself back to a corner as an adult and kind of avoid something. Oh, no, I didn't do that. And actually, I did do that. That means in that moment I lied.
Yeah.
You know, in order for me to get the benefit of doing that work, whether it's because I was in a conversation with a loved one or somebody at work or a relationship, you know, and that's now sitting with me. I wish I'd have handled that differently. And I'm having all these internal messages and all of that, as you say, I'm not good enough stuff, right? Or as this other person said, it's causing me chaos. It's causing me internal conflict and turmoil.
Yeah.
And it will continue to come up until I really own that stuff, accept it, take a look at it and change it. And the only way I can do that is by going, yes, I am that. I have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I am saying these things to myself.
Yeah.
or a piece of me is talking to me like that. You know, it could also be that it's just, that strikes me as a person who maybe really just wants to talk about it, has tried talking about it to whatever's going on for them, to people around them in the past. But people don't, most people on average don't know how to receive that sort of information. So we all tend to make light of it, don't we? Like in social circles and things. And the danger for me with that is I feel like I've seen loads of people really speak out their hearts, choose a moment to do that, and it just gets fucking slammed right back at them by the people around them who don't know what's happening, and just maybe make a joke out of it. So that person may then get to a place where, you know, it's just all of that, you know, we all have it, all of that I'm not good enough stuff, right? Yeah, we all have it. Because then everybody goes, yeah, it happens to all of us. And yeah, it does. But that doesn't change the fact that it's really damaging.
No, my mum, whenever I used to talk about my children growing up to my mum, it would get to a certain point in the conversation, she'd go, it's just kids, isn't it? That's it, it's conversation. That's my message. She doesn't want to know. Like, we've got to a point where we can't take it any further.
Yeah. And actually, what did you need in that moment?
I just needed her to hear me.
Yeah.
Or, you know, to say something empathetic, like, that sounds like it's really hard. Yeah. Then it touches me. Then I'm like, wow, I'm not in this alone, listening to me, and they're acknowledging that this is tough for me. Even if they haven't got an answer, I don't necessarily need an answer. I talk to be able to gain support. But and then I judge most of our communication. I believe that it's mostly learned through, you know, through our peers, through society, through our family,
all of this
communicating. And so we've created a way of communicating where we can just glaze and not make it personal, not make it intimate, not dig too deep, because it has to just stay surface level, because they're safe. And then we can laugh.
Yeah, and you know what the problem with that is? The problem is that they're never personal, and that it's never intimate, and that nothing ever goes deep. And that's the problem. That's what we all want.
Yeah.
In my experience, that's what people want. We want connection. We want meaning. We want purpose.
Yes.
And those are the things that come from going deep. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Getting personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It all comes from that. So tell me then, when your mother did say, just kids, right? What was the impact on you at the time?
So I just feel irritated. Feel irritated. Like, no, it's not just kids. Like, there's millions of kids, billions of kids possibly in the world. You know, they're all different. They're all unique. They're all individuals. You know, you might be able to clump some certain kids together that have got similar kind of going on, and but she would just glaze over it with that's just kids, so we don't need to talk about it. You know, they're irritating, they're annoying, whatever it is, just glaze over it, and so then I don't get what I need from the conversation.
Well, that's it. I was going to say, it's less about the children in that interaction and more about you, right?
Yeah.
And what you needed. So then you felt irritated, and I judged and imagined that there's more of a spin-off of that as well.
Yeah.
Because you're not just irritated, but you're feeling maybe not valued, not heard, not important. Like, then it becomes like, I don't fucking matter, obviously. And I'm carrying that now. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm carrying that into the next interaction with the children, the very people that I need to be, you know, my best for. So yeah, it's as much as we communicate in the language we use, it's also about, you know, being listened to and being heard. And that's a skill as well that doesn't really exist en masse in our world. It's being heard and listened to.
Yeah, at the start of my sessions, on my first session, I will spend sometimes up to an hour or two just talking about the emotional dynamic and how it might relate back to stuff from their past. Quite often a client will get to the end of that session and they'll say, you know what, that's the first time that I've ever had the space to be able to express like that. And you actually listened, and it's just so rare.
I get into conversations with where people are talking to me about stuff, particularly when I can see it's deep and meaningful to them. And I really just listen. And actually, they get shocked. They're like, sometimes I'm just on the other end of a phone and they're like, hello, you still there? And I'm like, yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening. And they go, well, why aren't you saying anything?
Because you were talking.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing for me to say in this, right?
No.
And it's insane because people close to me sometimes want me to say stuff so they can feel validated. And then I find myself going, oh, okay, now I'm just going to say stuff because it's what they want. You know, and that annoys me eventually as well, because it feels incongruent with what I know about what is needed for that circumstance. And most people are not used to being listened to. Just try it. I mean, I know you know it as well, but like, you know, it's from the work and all of that. But if you haven't tried it before, I just recommend going home, you know, listening to someone when they start talking, asking them how their day's been. Just do not answer, and only say things like, "Tell me more."
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd say nothing else. And that just, people, you know, I've heard a lot of feedback from those sort of exercises, and people just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, they want like the comfort and the validation of little things that conversation that keep people feeling.
What we don't realize is that those little things as well are interrupting a lot. They're also devaluing the sort of the presence of the moment. But we as a society and a culture have just gotten so used to being devalued in our interactions with other people that we don't even know it's happening anymore. But it still affects us.
Oh yeah.
We're highly strung. We still don't feel like we belong. Still don't feel like I can bring all of who I am to this. And I still feel like people don't want to actually see me when I'm either emotional or feeling weak or whatever the case is, or feeling vulnerable. Yeah, there's all of that we still carry around with us. That kind of lingering sense of something still missing. I'm really not actually fulfilled here. But what is it? Because it must be me then, because looking around, everyone's happy.
Yeah.
But really what it is we are not giving each other the depth of connection we need in communication, whether it's by how we speak or how we listen.
Yeah, so many of my clients are surprised when I say you're not alone in, you know, there are so many people out struggling with exactly the same thing that you're struggling with, and they're like, yeah, but I don't see that, and it's because everybody keeps it hidden because they don't want to talk about it, not really socially to talk about it. So most of society, I judge, kind of just communicates on a surface, superficial level.
Yeah, and it's the people around us that we love and respect and admire as well that are doing it and perpetrating it. You know, mothers, fathers, all of that sort of stuff. Grandparents, they do it.
Yeah.
Try to give advice as well. Try to give people advice. Sorry to interrupt you there, but like, I mean, people come to me sometimes and they say, you know, I just want your advice on something. I'm thinking to myself, no, you don't. And I've actually said it to people, you don't want my advice. You might want to hear my suggestion later, after we've exhausted all your options. But you really don't want my advice because nobody wants to be told what to do.
No, they might want one of their suggestions validated by you.
So true. Yeah. Yeah. But you don't want my advice. and if it was my advice, I'm going to keep it. Why wouldn't I just keep it for myself? I'm only going to give you something that works, right?
Yeah. Yeah, something that you said a few sentences ago made me really think of my journey around this work. I was so angry with my parents after I started doing my work. I just thought, look what you've done to me. Look how you've squashed me in my childhood, and look how you've modelled rage and not anger, and look at how you've done this and that, your communication. And I was just like, so many things I can't stand about my parents. Really can't stand it. Like, made me feel kind of sick just thinking about some of the ways they would operate and function. And then I realized it's not their fault. It's something that Brené Brown says in one of her podcasts. What if everybody was just doing the best they could with the tools that they had? And she's like, I can't really accept that. Like, really? Is everybody really doing the best they can with what they have? But it's not just, the tools that they have of their benefit. It's all of the baggage that they have that's basically defining how they behave and function. So yeah, it's not my mum. They love me. They were trying to raise a child, and in those moments, they were functioning how they were functioning. They didn't do what impact that on me as a life piece of baggage I might take around with me. It's just not their fault.
No, it isn't. In that way, I mean, also in that way, they were doing the best they could with what they had, right? Because they just didn't know any better. And it's the same with my parents, and I judge the same with all of us. That thing is very interesting, because that question of what if they were just doing the best they could with what they have, that could be seen as, well, is that for them or is that for me? Are you letting them off the hook, or is that for me? And actually, it's for me.
Yeah,
that's how I see it. That question is to me. I'm being asked, what if they were doing the best they could at the time with what they had? What if?
Yeah.
Well, that would mean that all of the resentment and anger and self-justified fucking anger that I've felt for the last however many years, 20, 25 years, or whatever it is, or however much, that would mean that doesn't exist anymore. That would mean all the venom that I've spat at them, all the times that I've said that they are a bunch of cunts, and I felt justified in that, that would mean I was wrong.
Yeah.
That would make me a cunt. That means I've behaved that way. Right, so that takes us back to what we were talking about earlier. Oh, shit. Oops, now I have to accept that. And if I accept that, that means that I have to admit that. Yeah, and then I have to get to the place where I realize, well, that isn't actually the whole of me. That was a piece of me at the time.
Yeah.
Doing the best I could with what I had.
Yes, exactly.
But now, can I forgive myself for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if I accept that they were just doing the best they could at the time with what the tools that they had, then maybe I owe them an apology. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's difficult.
Yeah.
That's not easy for people.
Yeah. Yeah. For a lot of people, accepting that what they did in the moment or what they're doing right now is not okay. Not okay for them, not okay for other people. Really leaning into it in that is really challenging for some people. Especially someone that's, I remember from my shadow work training, we talked about, all the different flavors of all the different archetypes, like we were talking about yesterday. And someone said, so what if someone comes in and they're really, really inflated sovereign and really inflated warrior, the kind of person that looks like Donald Trump, Hitler, someone that's wanting to control everything, believes that they're right, always right, and everybody else. They don't turn up very in these sessions. And the trainer said, if they do, it's probably because they're there, and they're probably not going to last 5 or 10 minutes and then say nonsense and walk out, because their ego is constructed around the complete belief that they're always right. And if they were to challenge that, they'd redraw their ego. And I judge that's where the real work in what we do. You can bits of your psyche, but unless you're actually willing to almost kind of reprogram yourself from the bottom up, and to let go of some of the stories that have been keeping me feeling safe my entire life, just letting it go and walking away from it. I felt literally, I explained it once to someone when I'd done a big piece of work, and it was around my anger, and I decided to, in the piece of work, it literally felt like I was just putting down some armor and walking away from it. And I said, it almost feels like I've just walked into like a big shopping center with some armor and some clothes on. I've literally just put them all on the floor and now everybody can see me, and it's like, like wow, like I feel scared. I don't know what to do. Somehow I need that to be okay, and it's really hard.
Yeah, it's challenging. It's really, really challenging. I mean, I don't get it right all the time at all. Like, not at all. I mean, I still get very annoyed with people, places, and things, situations, and circumstances. And I'm not always right. But, you know, imagine a world where there was no complaining, right? Because we realized that there's actually nothing to complain about and it's not personal, you know? And they're all just doing the best they can with the tools that they have, you know? Therefore, I can't really get annoyed with them if I accept that.
No.
I can choose who I want to be around.
Yeah.
But I don't need to carry or harbor anything. That's where gossip comes from, you know, because I suppose most gossip, I mean, there's a lot of adults that gossip too, but most gossip happens around the sort of adolescent age groups. And that, I guess, it's just also still figuring out a way to channel you know, what we're feeling, how we're feeling about it.
Yeah. And realigning the right from the wrong.
You
know, like, oh, Angela, you know, Angela last night, she slept with someone else. Someone puts that out. Is that going to be validated and accepted by the person I'm talking to, or is that going to be shut down as bad and wrong? Then I get a reaffirmation. Yes, Angela was bad and wrong for doing what she did, but it was probably a bit of fun.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. 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 Interesting. Yeah.
I sometimes myself analysing conversations as they're happening in front of me. I'm like, you really need to re-engage with like what they're doing rather than trying to work out all the stories that are going on in the background that are driving them towards the way they're behaving.
Yeah.
I just find it.
Yeah, and we can all get caught. I can get caught off guard as well. I mean, I work as well from the premise. I love to just work from the premise that everybody is fundamentally good.
Yes.
Like we all start out as good, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that it's really challenging to deal with all the stuff, the complaining, the gossip, talking about other people, all that stuff. I mean, all of those things I find really tedious, and I just don't want to be around people that do that, you know, because it affects me. Not for any other reason. They can carry on, but it's what we were talking about yesterday. The language, like everything's a nightmare, or vulgar. That was vulgar. That was horrific. You know, all of these things, these words, I'm like, take them out. I just don't even want them as part of my vocabulary. Do you know what I mean? Why are you describing situations that are good and fun as those things? Like, you know, workouts, for example, hard exercise work. Don't do the workout then. You know what I mean? But don't finish it and say it was a nightmare. No?
A classic example is the weather, isn't it? People talk about it all the time in this country, and most of the time they will talk about it in a negative way. You know, like I'll walk shop and it'll be chucking it down, and someone in the shop will say, "Oh God, it's awful out there, isn't it?" And I'm like, I actually quite like having a walk in the rain. It's quite refreshing, or it's, you know, the ducks or something like that. And as soon as the sun comes out, they're like, "Oh my God, it's so hot. I can't." It's just so what is good for you? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And I need it to be a little bit cooler, right? And it's also in this country, in the UK, it's a running joke, isn't it? It's a common theme. Like everybody goes, yeah, we just complain a lot. Yeah. Don't we? Like everybody. The UK, we're known for complaining. Okay. So do you want to do something about that? Like, or not? Or do you just want to complain and then agree that you complain? Yeah. And it affects us, right? The language, communication, you know, all of that stuff, how we pay attention to people. And in fact, I wonder what the tipping point is. You know, I mean, I remember for myself, I'm not sure if there was one tipping point specifically, but I do remember a time when I started to feel heard by people. And it was within the Mankind Project in the beginning, and I was like, why aren't these people challenging me? Why aren't they telling me that I'm wrong? I was ready to go. The guns were, you know, ready to roll, and I was like, these people aren't challenging me. They're not trying to put me down. There's no one's being condescending. What's the trick here?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Wait, what's the rub? What's going on? But I do remember how that felt, and it was really, really strange in the beginning. And I think, you know, we need to give space for that to people that haven't experienced this stuff. And the encouragement is for people to experience this kind of work, you know, to reach out and to start doing some personal work.
Yeah.
You know, to really delve into the things that make them tick,
Yeah.
and things that are getting in the way.
Yeah.
And then have that experience. And it's just priceless. And it's certainly opened me up to experience a world, a kind of world that I never knew existed before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, my first two relationships, I picked women for where I was at emotionally. The first woman that I picked was a bit all over the place, crazy, a bit scatty, loved to party. So she loved to be in the moment, but yeah, she wasn't very practical. And the second pick was very, very, very controlling. But I didn't know what I really wanted. I'd never even really happy that someone might love me in some way. And when I'd done enough personal work and had those couple of failed relationships, I sat down and asked myself, what exactly I want from a relationship with someone? You know, how exactly do I want them to be? How exactly do I want them to show up? And then I started to go looking for that. And I think I was very, very lucky to be able to find that in a person.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I started to do a bit of that as well. I looked back and I went, well, you know, I've never been a box ticker. There's always been that thing in relationships, especially with women. They go, "Oh, you just ticked that box." I'm like, really? Wasn't trying. And again, normally it's all quite sort of superficial stuff, isn't it? Height, hygiene, this, that, what, you know, all sorts of things. Yeah, I really sat down and I looked back and I went, yeah, I've had some chaotic relationships. We just clashed all the time and it wasn't pleasant, you know, and that made me a worse person. And I'm sure that in that moment, and I'm sure that I made her a worse person because of the way we were just devolving, helping each other devolve. So I really sat down and I started to think about, like you, the type of person and the qualities that I wanted. And how I would like them to respond to me in certain things and the way I would like them to be, their character. Now, equally here, you know, I would ask you, because I know the answer to this, but when you were choosing that woman who was all over the place and loved to party, and when, you know, because we did it unconsciously, you did choose them and they chose you. And when you chose that woman who was controlling, how were you at that time in your life? How was that mirroring who you were?
Yeah, so back when I was 18, which is when I found Claire, the woman that I first married, yeah, I was emotionally all over the place, mess.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at the time, obviously. But yeah, I remember when I found out that she wanted to have a relationship with me, and I was just like, wow, really? But you're pretty. Why would you want a relationship with me? Oh, well, okay, well, let's do that because I'm never going to get anything better.
Yeah, sure.
Hadn't even evaluated what her character was like.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And yeah, it mirrored so much of where I was at, and I relationships so often do that. You know, there's either a coming together of parts of each other, or there's like an opposite. You know, like if someone's always clean and tidy, then it would quite work if they were with someone that was also clean and tidy. It could also work with someone that's just really, really messy, just as long as they manage to work out that dynamic between the two and find a happy medium. So yeah, Claire was a lot of ways.
Do you feel like you were, you know, when you were with a woman who was controlling, was that a piece of you too?
Yeah, and that comes from my father. Always wanted to be in control, be right, and so yeah, I took on in my early life. It was funny with my second wife. She'd done a lot of personal work, and at one point she started talking about control and manipulation. then at some point there was an interaction. And I just said, seems to me like you're being quite controlling right now. And do you know what? She hit the roof. She did not want to hear that at all. And I just thought, wow, I've pushed a button there. Like, you really don't want to be controlling and manipulative. And yet I think I can see this right now. And you know, in hindsight and in space and time, I can really see it. I can see how he was showing up, being controlling and manipulative, and so was I. And now I get like a red flag when I start to try and control things, you know, either from myself or from my partner Tamsin. It's just like, really, are you trying to control that? Really? Why?
Yeah. So I agree. I think, you know, the way I used to be, certainly, you know, I was just not balanced at all. You know, I was drunk all the time. I was wasted, you know. I mean, that's where I met the woman, you know, that I used to kind of hook up with or get together with, or whatever you want to call it. Like, would be in pubs and at parties and those sorts of things. So any balanced woman at the time that saw me coming would have gone the other way very, very quickly. And the only thing I was attracting was what I was like, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it was so chaotic. So equally, that is now also true for the relationship that you're in today and the relationship that I find myself in today. I find myself in what I, for me, feel is the perfect relationship with the perfect person, right? I mean, there's things we need to work out. There's stuff that we are still mirroring each other.
Yeah.
But just as much as that I attracted that to me because of that's the state that I was in at the time. And we sit and we make a list and we go, okay, well, I didn't actually make a list. I just thought it through. I don't like writing things down. But I thought about the qualities and I really gave some thought to that, which I agree, it helps. It helps with work. It helps with business. It helps with life. You know, you think about the things that I want. So I kind of have an idea of the direction that I'm going in. But my life becomes a reflection of who I am and where I am.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to take that, yeah, I was a mess and I was controlling and I was all of these things, then I'm also going to take that, you know, now I have balance. Now I have peace. Now I can communicate well. I can love and respect not only myself, but also other people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'll put those on for me. And I want to be really present in the moment and I want to have fun.
Yeah. And you got all of those things now with the person that you're with.
Yeah.
You got to own that too, right? The person that we are with are mirror reflections of who we are today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, we are for them the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something in the previous podcast, something for people to be aware of personal work, that, you know, relationship that that person may say that they want them, when it actually comes to it, they may not like it because it's going to shake their safety net, because it's uncomfortable, it's different, it's not what they're used to, it's unknown, it becomes unpredictable. You know, how is the person actually going to behave, because they're not doing just the bog standard thing that they've always done through their life. So yeah, I would recommend anybody going on a personal work journey that they check in regularly with them about how that journey is for them as well, because it's not just affecting one person, it ripples out. As someone starts to change their behavior, it starts to on everybody.
Absolutely. It's a ripple effect, man. Do you know what I mean? And these days, you know, the thing is, when I'm in a mood or a space, or I commit an action, or I do something in a certain way, somebody around me is affected by that. And it's particularly these days with social media, people are very quick to post stuff.
Yeah.
Very quick to post stuff on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And they will post stuff from the position of what they're feeling in that place. So if I'm not in a good space, or feeling angry, or feeling pissed off, or I just don't even, you know, I haven't thought about it. I'm unconscious of it, but I don't really care. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm upset. I don't like this, and this is why. That carries with it an energy, and it has an impact. Now, it's not uncommon for most people to have at least 1,000 followers on Facebook or on Instagram or on Twitter, or whatever the case is. Let's call it hypothetically. And if you post something without thinking about it, right, from a bad place, and equally from a good place, if you do, have the same effect, but that will then go to 1,000 people, say, hypothetically. That then affects them. wow, that really just hit me like in a way that I wasn't expecting, or, you know, maybe I agree, or I'm getting drawn into this person's gossip, or whatever the case is. But then they go and repost something, and 1,000 people then reach another 1,000 people, right? Very quickly, that's 1 million.
Yeah.
3 times. Something needs to be reposted 3 times to 1,000 people, by 1,000 people. So we're one person to 1,000, then from that 1,000 to another 1,000 each, and then from that 1,000, and that's over 1 million people.
Yeah.
It's twice as 1 million people, isn't it? I don't know, with my mathematics now. 1,000 to 1,000, and then 1,000 to 1,000. That's 1 million.
Yeah.
So you're only 2 people away from 1 million.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard
yeah.
3 connecting to any person on the planet.
Yeah. You're only ever 2 people away from 1 million people, if you think about it that way. So what I do, what I say, the state that I'm in, me not being unconscious, or me not being conscious of what I'm putting out there, has an impact that could touch 1 million people very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And equally, if I'm putting something positive out there and something meaningful out there.
Mm.
So when you're not in a great space, what do? You come to people, you come to a space where you can handle that.
Mm.
So that it gets handled here by people that understand and know what they're doing. Take your car to a mechanic, take yourself to a doctor or a surgeon. You need something spiritually, mentally, bring yourself to a coach or a therapist or a counselor. Yeah, and it's constant work, it's constant maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah, because just that isn't actually going to make you feel better.
No, and it isn't okay that I just snap once or twice, occasionally a week at my child. Do you know what I mean? It isn't okay that like just once a month I get into a big argument and say something that I really don't mean, that I shouldn't have, to my partner. It's not okay that keeps happening.
No.
You know, all of those things matter. It's not okay that I ignored the person at work today that I shouldn't have. You know, it's not okay that this person works for me and I treated them in a bad way. It's not okay that I'm being selfish and I don't even know it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm. Yeah. I like feeling into things. Like when you say something affects me, I can feel it in my body. I'm like, yeah, just breathe. It's really important. But as I was saying earlier, if you just glaze over things, it doesn't. If I just glaze over something, I'll use the eye. If I glaze over something, I don't have that physical feeling in my body. If I allow it to just settle and percolate, I can actually process the feeling in my body. I'm like, yeah, that feels massive to me. It's really important. For me, it's really important that I take stock of how I'm impacting other people. And not so that I can create a version of Ashley that everybody's going to like. That's not what it's all about. It's just being aware of how I'm impacting other people.
I say it's creating a version of Ashley that you like. Because for me, it's about the version of myself that I like, that I'm then better for the people around me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't be my son's best friend because sometimes I have to parent him. So there has to be a balance.
Well, that's it. That's what addictions they all come from spaces like that as well, as people not knowing themselves, not being good people for themselves, not liking themselves, right? That's why I was an addict. That's why I did all the things I do. That's why people practice infidelity. They go look for stuff somewhere else because they can't connect with the person they're with when they're with them. And that also like relates back to just people making decisions to marry people based on the fact that it's just what we do, right? Isn't it just socially acceptable and I kind of have to get married and this person sort of seems okay, so I'll just stick with that? What the fuck is that about? I mean, I'm glad I never got married. In a way, I'm sad, and in a way, I'm glad. But, the choice was almost taken away from me in lots of ways because I was just too wild. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It would have been too crazy. But equally, there was a time when I absolutely would have bought into that concept, that fairy tale, that story. I mean, the divorce rate now, I don't even know what it is, but it must be well over 60%, at least.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And if I look at my past two big relationships, I married both of those women. It's kind of a nonsense, isn't it? Because I signed up for till death do us part.
Yeah.
I don't actually agree with that.
No.
Because how can I agree with it? Because I just agreed to it twice.
And you tell each other that you're going to love each other forever as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've just lied twice.
Yeah. On my wedding day.
Yeah.
All I agree to is I'm going to be fully present and in the moment as much as I can. And right now, I love you.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing that. So, marriage as well as an institution is such a difficult thing to get out of. I mean, you managed to do it twice, man. What were you thinking?
Well, I still haven't got out the second one.
Said he's still in it. My goodness, man.
Yeah. A lot of money to get out of it. And yeah. But now looking at marriage as a as a construct, I'm not sure what it actually gives couples more than both of them looking each other eye to eye and saying, I'm dedicated to you right now. Right now I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but that's my commitment for now. I'm fully in with you right now. I don't understand what marriage gives someone over the top of that,
either.
other than legal they want to get out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a headache for everyone. I mean, surely it was designed back in the day for, when women weren't working and all of that sort of stuff. I don't know, to create safety for them, or am I just pulling stuff out of thin air here?
I don't really know. I don't really.
It's an outdated construct, man. For sure.
Yeah, it is.
It
really is.
Yeah.
A friend I did a hand fasting. He said, I really love this woman right now, but the thought of the marriage and the legal stuff around the marriage, it seems too much. So I'm just going to do another ceremony called a hand fasting. It's a very ancient pagan ceremony. It was just like a wedding, but they didn't have the legal stuff behind it. And within a couple of years, they realized they weren't right for each other and they walked away. And then they didn't have to go through the court process of separating the financials and yeah.
Yeah, I have no answers for that. I just say in lots of ways I'm glad I never did get married, and I don't think I intend to at all moving forward. I'm happy to have contracts in place, for certain purposes, but I will continue to show you each day how I feel about you and what you mean to me, and I need you to trust me to do that. You know what I mean? And then I'm in a place where I feel like I'm not being cornered as well, which is a big thing for me. I feel like I'm free to actually show you how I feel when I feel that way, rather than obligated. Yeah. And perhaps that's what it's about. Perhaps marriage in itself is what's creating a lot of the problems in relationships. Yeah. Then we have to believe that it's not a fairy tale. You have to get that into people's minds and lives who've grown up with it, being told that men are meant to be knights in shining armor on white horses and come and pick me up and whisk me off and carry me away. I mean, yeah, sure, I get that not everybody feels that way, but a lot of people do. A lot of little girls grow up with that. A lot of little boys grow up with that. That's the idea. This is who I have to be. Yeah,
the breadwinner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lots of little girls grow up going, thinking they have to be perfect, and that they can't, I don't know, fart in front of people, you have a dump, or just like, I'm just pulling stuff out of thin air. Just things like.
It just makes me laugh, though. Every human being on the planet farts a number of times a day. Why have we hide this?
Yeah. Or like I can't show this person that this is a part of me, and equally like guys, yeah, exactly. I have to be the breadwinner. I have to present in a certain way. Part of the problem, though, as well, is that our world is changing so much, but those constructs are not. And now we have a generation, we have multiple generations of males, boys, adults, whatever, all grown up now as well, that, because of the way the world is structured, we have so much pressure put on us for the sins of the past as males in the society that, all of the movements, feminism, all of that sort of stuff, racism, everything, capitalism, all of that stuff is the fault of men. Right? We have to take responsibility for it. We have to take responsibility for all of that stuff that we had nothing to do with because we weren't even born. And on top of that, we have to be expected to not be able to live up to our primal instincts because the world has developed in such a way that everything gets brought to us these days. We don't have to hunt anymore. We're not allowed to get angry in public either. We're not allowed to get angry anyway. We have to just be all of these things that aren't natural to us and feel like we're not accepted. So what do people do? They go, well, fuck you then. Right? You want me to take responsibility for everything. There's nothing left for me to do because you all want to do it yourselves as well. And I'm told that I need to be this way. There's nothing for me. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stay home and I'm going to play video games. Because there's no point in me doing anything else. Because wherever I go, I get told that I am wrong.
Yeah.
And there isn't space for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
well, yeah. Yeah. The video games is a whole nother thing. I've been doing a lot of research recently about addiction and about the real value in life is to go on that search, to go on that journey, to go on that quest, have that goal to be able to get something. Once you actually get it, that's you get a bit of a dopamine hit from getting it, but it's the actual journey towards getting it that creates a lot of dopamine and creates a lot of positive mental attitude for people. And so the problem with something like cocaine or mobile phones or gaming is, and porn as well, it's instant gratification. It's an instant dopamine hit. As soon as you turn on that screen and you click on the porn site, or as soon as you start gaming, or as soon as you snort that line, boom, you've got a massive hit. And so why would you bother trying? Why would you get off your sofa when you can get that kind of pleasure just by tuning in, or rather tuning out?
Yeah. You just broke up there for a little bit, Bud, as well, but we can always cut that out. Yeah. We can always cut that out. Yeah, cool. Well, I suppose we could keep talking. We've been going for about an hour today.
Have we? Wow.
Yeah. It's 5:15 already.
Wow, it flies by. It's still cutting out. Why is it cutting out? Full service. You still there, Brad?
Yeah.
I think it might be you, because I've got